Welcome to my podcast, which is all about changing your business and money reality. This is your master money coach, Dr. Gaurav Deka, and you are money. Hello, my friends. How have you been? Today's episode is called Finding Your 100K Model. 100K in the sense that 100,000 US dollars, which is roughly, I would say, 75 lakh per year. Now, how did the 100K model, this 75 lakh model, come into being? How did I imagine and inspire the coaches, the students that I teach in my business coaching program? How did I inspire them or created this vision for them wherein they could make 100K per year, even though they hadn't made it so far? They could imagine that this is the number that I really want to have in a year, right? And this started showing up when I, took this idea of 100K to the people in ATEPS. When I started my pilot batch of ATEPS, my business and money coaching program, which happens to be a lifetime membership program where every single week we meet and we get coached on our money reality, on our business reality. That is where we discovered that, this is what we want to create. We want to have a model as coaches and as healers where we can make 100K, close to 75 lakh per year. And this came about when I started asking them, how much money would you actually like to make in a year? Now, as coaches, as healers, as therapists, we don't ask ourselves that. We think that asking ourselves that would make us money minded, would make us greedy, would make us, lusty, would make us abuse people's emotions and somehow dupe them, take advantage of them, all those thoughts. And these are what I call usually as errors in the thinking process, because any coaching business, any healing business is like any other entrepreneurial venture. It's like any other practice, right? So it's important that if this is how you want to move ahead, if this is how you want to create contribution in the world, if this is how you want to create money, and as a result of creating that money, bring out positive effects and positive results in the world, how much money would you like to make? It's as simple as that, right? Later, next year, I also intend to create a mastermind wherein I actually show people, teach people, train them, decode the whole process of making 100K and 100K, which is slash 75 lakh, roughly, once again. It's not going to be same for everyone. It is going to be different for every single person, right? It's going to be different because every person's brain is different. The way they use their modality is very different. The way they use their craft, the way they make their offers, the kind of offers that they want to make, and the structure of those offers, all of those are going to be different based on how they think, how they create, how they manage, how many clients do they want to have, what kind of programs do they want to have. Are those one-on-one, healing coaching program, or are those group programs? What kind of programs are those? Trainings? So for every person, the 100K model or the 75 lakh model is going to look very, very different. It's not the same for everyone. So this is also a caveat that whenever you see someone making money in the healing and coaching world, in the therapy world, and you see that, oh my God, they are doing that program, that must be working for them, and it's really, really good. And if I adapt that program, if I also do a program like that, maybe I will be able to make 75 lakh rupees a year. But that's not true for you, because that program is a creation of that particular person, of their brain, right? Of their thinking process, of their ability to perceive the world. And also, most importantly, of the amount, it's a byproduct of the amount of healing work they have done on themselves the inner work as a result of which they are able to come out with that program and show up in the way they are showing up, right? Going back to the mastermind that I want to create next year for the 100K model, for the 75 lakh rupees model per year, I want to name that mastermind the six figure formula. Isn't that a great name? Right? Where I intend to coach coaches and healers on actually creating 75 lakh rupees per year, right? Now, the moment I started thinking about it, and I, started talking about it to a few students of mine inside ATIPS, and also to a few, other people, and I said that, we all have 100K model within us, and the only thing that we need to do is believe in it and tap into it, right? However, the moment you say that thing, limiting thoughts and beliefs show up, that it's too large. This amount is too large. Who is going to make that amount? It's too large. We live in the Indian subcontinent. It's not possible to make that kind of money with, the geographical positioning we have, with the kind of audience we work with, or, in India or in this subcontinent, coaching or healing industry doesn't have that kind of money. And you have to, in that case, you have to work really hard. You have to make your marketing perfect. You have to make your sales perfect. You have to keep at it. You have to be this entrepreneur who spends 10 hours in a day converting clients every single day. You have to convert 10 clients, 20 clients, 30 clients. Only then you will be able to reach the 100K mark. Thinking about it dries up my throat, so I'm going to drink some water. hmm. So, sipping my water. Now, I want to let you all know that your brain is going to give you all kinds of reason to not believe in that model. If you are someone from any industry, any business, and you want to create a revenue of 75 lakh rupees in a year, close to 100K dollars, right? And you have never done that, and you are envisioning it, or maybe you are part of a coaching program where your coach envisions that for you and asks you, how much money would you like to make? And you say 75 lakh, right? But you don't know how to do it because you have never done it. Maybe you have created 50 lakh in a year, 25 lakh in a year, or maybe 10 lakh, right? But you have never reached the 75 lakh mark, right? Which means that this is something that your brain has never experienced, right? Your brain doesn't know how to get there, how to process that. What is the way? What are the steps and strategies you need to get there? Your brain doesn't know, right? And because it doesn't know the process, it starts freaking out. So, why does the brain freak out when it doesn't know the process, right? Because anything that you don't know is unfamiliar. It could be unsafe. Anything that you don't know can be interpreted by the brain as death, right? Because the natural trait, the natural tendency of your brain is to solve a problem. It sees everything as a problem. The chair that is in front of you, it'll look at the chair and it'll know, oh, fine, I'm supposed to sit here. This is something that you use in order to sit down, relax. Or it's going to look at a table and say, okay, fine, this is where I can put my objects. This is where I can write, right? I can sit down and look at the table and put my computer here. So basically, it knows what to do with what is there in front of it and how to do it, right? However, in this case, when you look at this 100K creation, that I'm going to have 100K in my business this year, your brain will not be able to find out how to get there because it has never experienced that. It has never reach there, right? So it doesn't know. So what happens is it starts scrambling and trying to figure out, basically searching for different ways by which it can make it happen. And when it can't find those ways, when it can't find the ways by which you can create the 100K in that year, it forces you to give up. Why does it force you to give up? It forces you to give up because for the brain, that's a dangerous area to inhabit. That's a dangerous area to go. Because if you go there, anything can happen. It's uncertain. You have never known how to get there, you've never experienced it. So anything can actually happen. That is why it forces you to give up, right? And this is what we need to identify, that my brain is telling me these stories, giving me these thoughts, trying to prevent me from reaching my goal, simply because my brain, the job of my brain is to protect me from something that it doesn't know how to decode, how to get there. Because in the process of getting there, my brain may tell me that, hey, this is so unknown, unfamiliar, anything can happen, you may die, right? And I remember, I was telling one of my students in ATEPS that when you reach that goal, when you reach your 100K or 500K, or when you reach your 1 million dollar mark, or you make 100 crore rupees, when you get there, you literally have to die, because that version of you that existed, that was making 10 lakhs a year, 20 lakhs a year, 50 lakhs a year, is no longer there. Now you are a different person. Recently, I had also done an Insta live on how neurologically and physically you change as a person when you want to create a different business result. Maybe I'll make a podcast on that as well, but that's for later, right? So I was getting into this understanding that your brain is definitely going to prevent you, because the brain tries to figure out how to do it. And your idea, your challenge is to give up the how, give up the process, right? So you're not going to change your goal. You will not say that, oh my God, I'm freaking out. I don't know how to get there. And I've never done it. I don't know if I'll be able to do it. I don't know if someone is going to pay me. Cut all that out, which is basically the BS that the brain gives you. To cut all of that out, not change your goal. Keep your goal the way it is, and slowly work on your feelings and thoughts by getting coached with a coach, by getting healed of those fears and insecurities with a healer, by addressing the traumas behind those fears by someone who is trauma informed and can work with you, and settle into the unknowing of the how, right? Settle into the unknowing of the how. When you don't know how to get there, but you do have the belief that I'm going to get there, I know it exists, I only have to tap into it. That kind of confidence, that kind of belief is going to come when we have worked on our fears and insecurities, when we have addressed our emotions behind the decision that we make and the resistance that comes with it, when we are able to look at our childhood traumas and our intergenerational traumas, which shape our thinking, and the lack we experience in our inner landscape, right? And that is exactly what I teach my students in ATEPS. It's this business coaching program that I do for an entire lifetime, right? So, what is the first thing that I want you to do in creating your maximum money model, your 100K model, your 75 lakh model, right? So, if you want to create a model like that, first of all, I would want you to give up all that hustle, right? And not allow any of your previous models to create the money that you are going to create. Because let's imagine you have created 50 lakh a year or 20 lakh a year, and you have never created 75 lakhs a year. So if you use the different processes where you have created 10 lakh, where you've created 50 lakh, are they going to work for your 75 lakh mark? No, right? That process was for a different number. So now the new process that will eventually come up by experimentation, by trial and error, by sheer confidence, by simply walking the path, right? And continuing with the belief, The path that you will create, that path, that process is going to look very different from the previous ones. So you literally have to give up all the different hows, all the different processes, all the different methods that you used earlier to create something else, something lesser than what your goal now is, right? And for that, you have to be willing to give up the hustle. Because once again, the brain will tell you that you have never reached 100K. You've never reached 75 lakh rupees. So you will have to work hard. You'll have to connect to a lot of people. You have to do crazy amount of networking. You will have to be on social media 24/7. You have to do, because that's what the brain does, as I explained it to you, right? And when I say this to my students, they often don't know what to say. They say that, how is that going to be possible? Because we really have to work hard, right? And I tell them, no, that is what you used to reach your 50K mark, to reach your 20K mark, right? But not the mark that you are thinking, the 75 lakh rupees or the 100K mark, right? Because people often underestimate the power of creation from a space of total and complete unknowing. In the episode of this podcast, I have spoken a lot. I have spoken a lot about quantum ambivalence, right? So, quantum ambivalence is this state where you don't know how to get to your goal, how to get to your target, but you are still comfortable. You still feel safe. You still feel um, alive and rooted in the unknowing, right? How does that happen? How do you feel alive, rooted, and grounded in the unknowing? That is because you have done the inner work. That's because you have worked with all the anxieties, all the fears, all the phobias, all the insecurities that come when you think about, oh, how am I going to reach a 75 lakh mark, right? Because the moment you think about it, once again, your brain is going to freak out. You're going to become anxious. You are going to become insecure. You will have all sorts of crazy ideas that'll come up. Maybe other people will tell you, that's not possible. You can't achieve this in a year's time. No one has ever done that, right? Then you will see more and more posts on social media which will tell you, how you have to hustle, how you have to, do this, do that, show up, make a reel on Instagram every single day, write emails every single week, connect to your clients all the time, basically drive you to a state of deep overwhelm and burnout, right? And I tell people to do the exact opposite. I tell them, give all of that up. Give all of that up and work. Keep on working and witnessing with the emotions that come up when you think about that mark. If fear comes up, work on the fear. If guilt comes up, work with the guilt. If grief and sadness comes up, work with that. If tight, restrictive feelings come up which are so somatic, you don't have a name for it. They show up in the body in the form of very, very insecure feelings, tight feelings, restricting feelings, feelings that almost make you puke. You may not have a name for those emotions, but you still have to intercept, feel them in your body, work with them, move through them, feel them fully, and allow them to exist. And then you can integrate those feelings without actually going inside, without actually looking within for these feelings. What will happen is you will keep on searching outside for ways to somehow quieten these voices inside you, right? To somehow numb that pain, right? To somehow block those insecurities out, because you want to do more and more and more and generate more and more clients, as a result make more and more money. That's the narrative that you will give yourself, and I tell you, give that up, because that is essential to make yourself still, to inhabit the stillness, and then witness the emotions that come up, witness the fears that come up, witness the anxieties that come up, and slowly become comfortable by inhabiting the quantum ambivalence, which is a state of not knowing but I'm comfortable with not knowing because I'm so confident, because my belief has 100% energy that I will reach my model, and I don't have to figure out how do I reach that? How do I reach there? And some of the questions that I ask my students in ATEPs about reaching that quantum ambivalence is, if success or failure was not the concern, what would you do? What is the work that you would do? What kind of coaching, what kind of healing, what kind of therapy would you do if success or failure was not the concern? And I have the same question for you. For you, if success or failure was not the concern, right? What would you actually do? Second question, whatever you do, you love it so much that you can do it 24/7. It is sheer joy, sheer excitement, sheer curiosity. And by doing that, if you could create 100K, 75 lakh, what's the lightest way to get there? See, this is one of the most important questions, which what's the lightest way to get there? Because you may think that you have to call 100 people up, write 1,000 emails in a month, show up on Instagram every single day, communicate to people, convince them that your program is really nice, that your healing work is the most superlative. And I tell you that when you give all of that up, what's the lightest way to get there? What's the lightest way to get there? One of our participants in ATEP said that, I want to mix comedy and coaching. And through humor, I want to help people tap into their inner knowing of where they want to be in their life. I said, brilliant. What's the lightest way to get there? and and he said, oh well, I can just show up as my humorous self, my authentic humorous self. And I asked, what stops you from showing up as your most authentic humorous self? And then he said that, I'm scared that if I show up that way, what is my family going to think? What are my followers going to think? And I tell him that that's exactly the block. Your block is not that you are not working towards the model. Your block is you think your thoughts about how you will show up and what will people think, which means you are going inside people's brains. You are literally going inside people's brains and thinking on behalf of them, right? So if you didn't do that, that's the third question. Mind you, this is the third question. If you didn't do that, what's the simplest model you can have? What's the simplest model you can have? And then he stopped for a while and he said that I can just start with one on one coaching. I can start with one on one healing work through humor. And I'm sure there are very few people doing this, so I can actually price it at a premium price because I've spent years on getting trained. And now is the time to use all of those skills and bring my special element, bring my USP, which is humor, and create a series of coaching work using that, and to believe that there will be people paying for it, right? And I said, brilliant, brilliant. That's how you do it. So the three questions were, if success or failure was not the concern, what would you do? This is something you love. This is something you find joy in. This is something you find deep excitement and curiosity in. So you could do 24/7. And second question was, what's the lightest way to get there? Right? And the third question is, what's the simplest model you can have to reach there? The other day, I was reading a newsletter by one of my favorite millionaire coach, Rich Litvin. So it was fabulous. He writes such fabulous newsletters. If you haven't subscribed to his newsletters, I am absolutely and completely endorsing it. Go ahead and subscribe to Rich Litvin's newsletters. So he had this mail which came, which said that, if you are figuring out a model, if you are figuring out a business structure, there are 5 questions that I'm going to ask myself. And I have 5 questions that you can ask yourself. And these 5 questions are, number one, is it simple? Listen to this. Is it simple? I love this question. Is it simple? Second question, is it effortless? Right? Third question, is it fun? Fourth question, what's the price I will pay? And I'm willing to pay it. Am I willing to pay it? Fifth question, if I say yes, How will I screw it up? This is so funny. If I say yes, how will I screw it up? Right? So he also looks at the cons, basically. However, I want to focus on the first three questions, which is what I did for two of my friends and ATEP students when I was working in figuring out their 100K model, which is 75 lakh rupees model. I asked just three simple questions. Firstly, is it simple? Is your model simple? Right? Second, is it effortless? Because it's supposed to be effortless. It doesn't need to be hard, doesn't need to be grueling, it doesn't need to push you through the wall and make you sweat and come up with all that grime. And third is it fun? Because only that way you can keep pursuing it to actually the goal of 75 lakh rupees. And this is completely contrary to what the world teaches you, to put up the hustle, to work hard, to spend 8 hours a day on your table, to constantly interact with people in a way wherein you have to convince them of your work, right? I just asked three simple questions. Is it simple? Is your model simple? Is it effortless? Is it fun? Borrowing from Rich Litvin, right? And this is how I made the 100K model for two of my really, really good friends, right? So, my first friend, she happens to be a therapist. She also happens to be an inner child healer, and she was trying to figure out how do I get to a model where I can create 75 lakh in a year. And I said that, listen, if you have 20 clients paying to you, each client paying you 4,000 USD for 6 months, so you can see 10 clients in the first 6 months and 10 clients in the next 6 months. And then she said she also wants to have a mastermind where she can work on procrastination, right? And I said, how many people do you want there? And she said, around 20. And I said, okay, fine. You can charge them $1,000. How does that feel like? And she said, that's fine. I mean, I'll be doing this work for 3 months. $1,000 for 3 months is actually good, right? And initially, when I told her that 4,000 USD, 20 clients paying to you, six months, which is total basically 80,000 USD, and 20,000 coming from your mastermind, how does that make you feel? Because now it's actually 100K. So initially she also began to freak out, right? And think that, oh, is this going to be that easy? And I said, yes, it is that easy. The point is, you may not be willing to believe that there are people out there who would pay you 4,000 USD for getting healed and coached with you for 6 months. But it's not that the goal that you need to change. It's not your offer that you need to change. You need to work on the thoughts. You need to work on the feelings that come up when you think about that goal, when you think about that offer, right? Similarly, there's another friend of mine who happens to be a tarot reader coach. And even for her, she sees two clients in a day for 5 days. And I said, what is your simplest model? Your simplest model is seeing 20 clients in a year, 10 in the first 6 months, 10 in the next 6 months, each client paying you 5,000 USD. How does that sound like? This is only an example, basically. And again, for her, it was something that her brain could not take it. And my idea was also to challenge the brain, challenge the thinking, because once again, it's not the goal, it's not the offer that we need to change. What we do need to work on are all the feelings, all the uh, thoughts that come up with. Because see, the issue is the brain doesn't believe in such simple models. Therefore, the brain presents you with lies like, no one will pay me, it can't be that easy, no one pays 5,000 for getting coached or for healing, or maybe people will badmouth me, I will not be able to create results. What if they don't like working with me, my clients? And once again, the idea is not to change the model. The idea is to change the thinking process, right? Because your 100K model is the simplest, the lightest, the easiest thing in this world only if you are willing to believe in it. Only if you're willing to believe in it. So your 100K model is always a result of your own safety. How safe do you feel when you make that journey? Trauma work hence becomes essential while you pursue your 100K model. Secondly, it is a result of your belief in your own value, in your significance, and the amount of love you have for yourself. Because you have to, first of all, value yourself, as a result of which your creation, whatever you create and put out in the world, will automatically will have value, right? Thirdly, your willingness to let go of control, because if you try to control, you will once again get into the hustle. You will once again try to use other ways by which you have created 50 lakhs in a year, 20 lakhs in a year, but not 75 lakhs, right? So if you try to control, you fall back into old ways, and as a result of which, you don't create the result that you want to create. Fourthly, you have to be willing to believe in the world, right? You have to be willing to believe that there are people in the world who find your work valuable. There are people in the world who would want to pay you. There are people in the world who will resonate and align with you and are the perfect client waiting out there for you. As a result, fifth point is you have to be willing to trust the world. Now, trusting the world doesn't come in overnight. Trusting the world starts with trusting ourselves, trusting our environment, trusting our family. As a result of which, once again, trauma work becomes essential to be able to trust our bodies, trust our inner voices, trust our intuition, trust the world outside of us. Sixthly, you have to be willing to hold your work in the highest regard, like any other profession, right? Any other profession, any other business. If all the people in the world, a fashion designer, a lawyer, an engineer, a doctor, is able to hold their profession in the highest regard, you also have to be willing to hold your profession in the highest regard, right? Only then you will be able to see the value that see the value that you're offering, right? When you respect yourself, when you respect your profession, when you see it as something great and significant, when you see yourself as a contributor in this world who is changing lives. And lastly, seventh, inhabiting the quantum ambivalence, staying in a space where you don't know how to reach your goal, but still being comfortable with it, is a result of working on your nervous system. So you have to be willing to do the nervous system work, wherein your nervous system can relax, give up the hustle, stop the uh, extreme exhaustion, get out of that hamster wheel, which keeps bringing more and more burnout every next week. That kind of work is essential so that your nervous system is able to unwind, relax, go into a space where it can simply rest, and as a result of which, bring up more and more space inside your body to come up with newer ideas and the ability to receive. So I'm going to repeat all the 7 points, right? Your 100K model is a result of your safety, your belief in your own value, your significance, your self love. Thirdly, your willingness to let go of control. Fourthly, believing in the world. Fifthly, trusting in the world. Sixth, holding your work in the highest regard like any other profession. And seventh, inhabiting the quantum ambivalence, which is a result of working on your nervous system, right? So that's how you create your 100K. Remember, it has to be simple, it has to be light, it has to be effortless, and it has to be fun. Okay, guys, this is where I end today. I will see you next week. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast and are willing to change your business and money reality, head to my free coaching community on Facebook called You Are Money. Link is in the show notes. And do not forget to leave a review on Spotify.com or Apple Podcast. Thank you so much.